The Atlantic Ocean once carried more than just waves. It carried unimaginable pain, sorrow, and the forced labor that built the Americas. Between the 15th and 19th centuries, over 12 million Africans were forcibly taken from their homeland, sold into slavery, and shipped across the Atlantic. This is the story of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, one of the darkest chapters in human history. The transatlantic slave trade was a brutal system in which African men, women, and children were forcibly taken from their homelands, packed into the holds of European ships, and transported to the Americas. From there, they were sold to work on sugar, tobacco, cotton, and coffee plantations in conditions of unimaginable cruelty. The origins of the transatlantic slave trade lie in Europe's insatiable demand for labor to cultivate new colonies in the Americas. It began with the Portuguese and Spanish exploring the African coast in the 15th century. Initially, Africans were enslaved by other Africans through intertribal warfare, but as European demand grew, the scale of the trade skyrocketed. By the 1600s, European slave traders were directly involved, leading to the brutal removal of Africans from their lands. The Middle Passage was the second leg of the journey, the 4-6-week voyage across the Atlantic. Enslaved Africans were packed into the holds of ships, chained together, with barely enough room to move or breathe. The conditions were so horrific that many died from disease, starvation, or abuse before even reaching the shores of the Americas. For the survivors, their lives would be marked by violence, exploitation, and a relentless struggle for freedom. Upon arrival, enslaved Africans were sold at auction and forced to work on plantations, in mines, or as domestic servants. Their lives were marked by brutality, exploitation, and a constant fight for survival. Many lost their names, families, and cultures. Yet in the face of unimaginable suffering, they created communities, retained elements of their African heritage, and laid the groundwork for future resistance. Though they were denied freedom, enslaved Africans forged their own communities, cultures, and histories that continue to inspire to this day. Though the transatlantic slave trade officially ended in the 19th century, its legacy still reverberates today. Abolitionists, both black and white, fought tirelessly to end the trade, culminating in the gradual outlawing of slavery. Yet the scars left by this brutal system are still felt today in systemic racism, economic inequalities, and the fight for justice and equality. While slavery was abolished, the fight for racial justice continues. The history of the transatlantic slave trade is more than just a dark chapter. It's a call to remember and repair the injustices of the past. The transatlantic slave trade is a history of pain, resilience, and survival. As we remember the millions who were taken, we honor their strength and the generations they built. The story is not just about the past, it's a story that shapes the present and informs the fight for freedom and equality around the world. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you found this video informative. Share it to help spread awareness of this vital chapter in history. And leave a comment. How can we continue to fight the legacy of slavery today?